The Nazi response was brutal and swift, with many executions, deportations to death camps, and children sent to re-education camps in Germany.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
We're getting towards the end of the month here, and I thought it would be nice to take a few minutes as we close out August to channel my history teacher roots and share some of the August anniversaries in labor history. And I compiled this information from the 2022-23 edition of Planning to Change the World, a plan book for social justice educators. It's an excellent planner published by the Education for Liberation Network. I've been grabbing me a copy of that every year since I started as a teacher a decade ago. Still learn from it and want to make sure I give them full credit. So let's get started. August 4th was the 80th anniversary of the Bracero program, which was designed to remedy a U.S. labor shortage during World War II by allowing Mexican men to come to the U.S. to work in the agriculture industry. The program was supposed to guarantee worker protections, including a minimum wage, insurance, and safe free housing. But farm owners frequently failed to live up to these requirements. Housing and food were typically substandard, and wages were not only low, but also frequently paid late or not at all. August 5th was the 60th anniversary of the imprisonment of Nelson Mandela. Mandela, commander of the militant wing of the African National Congress, ANC, was arrested and sentenced to 5 years in prison for inciting a strike. The following year, he and other ANC leaders were charged with sabotage and other crimes. They were all convicted and sentenced to life imprisonment at hard labor. Mandela was finally released after 27 years when the apartheid government realized the popular leader was more of a threat to them in prison than out. On August 7th, it was the 180th anniversary of the British General Strike, also known as the Plug Plot. This was just the beginning of what will become a nationwide movement for improved working conditions and higher wages, as well as a more democratic government. At a meeting near Manchester, organized by the Chartist movement, 18,000 British workers voted to call a general strike for the following day, unifying disparate trade groups. An estimated 500,000 people took part in what would become the longest and largest strike in history. August 9th was International Day of the World's Indigenous Peoples, and August 12th was International Youth Day. Going back to South Africa for a moment, August 16th was the 10th anniversary of the Americana Massacre. After a week of trying unsuccessfully to get support from their union to go on strike, workers at the Lonmin Platinum Mine staged a wildcat strike demanding better wages and working conditions. Police and security forces trapped the strikers in an area surrounded by barbed wire and opened fire, killing 34 and injuring 78. Following the attack, 250 of the miners were arrested, and it was the most lethal use of force in South Africa since the end of apartheid. Mentioned it earlier, August 24th would have been the 100th birthday of Howard Zinn, the historian, author, educator, and activist who died in 2010. Zinn was a civil rights and anti-war activist, opposing both the Vietnam and Iraq wars. He was a prolific author, perhaps best known for A People's History of the United States, which details historical events from the viewpoint of the common American. Among the many awards he received were the Lannan Foundation Literary Award for Nonfiction, the Eugene V. Debs Award for his writing and political activism, and the Ridenhour Courage Prize. And I want to say Zinn was certainly an inspiration for me. I'm aware of his critics, both the really silly ones on the right and the much more serious ones on the left, and certainly his work is not above criticism, but I think he, in the whole, inspired many, many folks, such as myself, to re-examine history from a different lens, and not only to re-examine it, but to actually participate in it. August 27th was the birthday of labor leader and women's rights advocate Mary Anderson, who lived from 1872 to 1964. She was the first director of the Women's Bureau of the U.S. Department of Labor and served for 5 presidents over a 24-year period. And finally, August 31st is the 80th anniversary of the Luxembourg General Strike. Protesting the conscription of males into the German army by the Nazis, Luxembourgers called a general strike that spread quickly throughout the country. Virtually every aspect of the economy came to a halt. Walkouts in the steel industry were particularly crucial, as Luxembourg was one of the top 10 steel producers at the time. Unsurprisingly, the Nazi response was brutal and swift, with many executions, deportations to death camps, and children sent to re-education camps in Germany. We should never forget those who gave their lives fighting the scourge of fascism.
You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.